Today we'll be working on factoring, and this is the second lesson in factoring, and it's 3-5 factoring day 2. You should all have this paper, its notes, and it should be included in your notebook. I'll be doing some questions from this worksheet, and you're supposed to take notes and finish the rest of it. So let's work on number 2 together. What makes this a different lesson is that, as you can see, a, which is the number in front of x squared, is 2, which is different from 1. So decide what your a, b, and c are. Remember, the equation of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is 2 in this case, b is 9, and c is negative 18. When you have an equation like this where a is different from 1, first of all you have to calculate what a times c is. And a is 2 and c is negative 18, so when you multiply 2 times negative 18 you will get negative 36. So you have to think of two numbers that when you multiply you'll get negative 36, and when you add you would get this number in front of the x, which is 9. So think of those two numbers. For my pre-AP, you cannot use a calculator, so you have to think of all the factors of negative 36. So negative 3 and 12, if you multiply them, you will get negative 36, and if you add them, you will get 9, and this is what you want. So the two numbers are negative 3 and 12. For my academic, you are allowed to use a calculator. So you go to y equals, and you enter whatever number you want to multiply to get. So negative 36, so you enter negative 36 divided by x. So negative 36 divided by x. And you go to second table. The table will show you all the numbers that x and y can be that would multiply to give you negative 36. Look, 1 times negative 36 is negative 36. 2 times negative 18 is negative 36. But you need to find those that would add up to a 9. So far if you add 1 and negative 36 you will get negative 35. If you add 2 and negative 18 you will get negative 16. So these are not the numbers you're going to look at. 3 and negative 12, they add up to give you negative 9. You want a 9, so you have to switch those. They have to be negative 3 and 12. So go up, and as you can see negative 3 and 12 is part of the choice. If you add them, you will get 9, so these are your numbers. So you can use the calculator to figure out what the numbers are. So once you decide what those numbers are, like negative 3 and 12, you write them down. And these are your two numbers that would add up to a negative 36, would multiply to give you negative 36, and add up to give you 9. After you decide what your numbers are, you write them down. So negative 3 and 12. Then what you do is that you divide by a. A is the number in front of the x squared, so you divide by 2. Now try to simplify if you can. Negative 3 over 2, you cannot simplify it, so you copy it down. So I'm going to copy negative 3 over 2. 12 divided by 2 is a 6. My academic class, you can use the calculator to figure this out. So second quit, go back. Second quit, you go back and you divide 12 divided by 2, and you get that the answer is 6. So negative 3 over 2 and 6, it's a positive 6, since here it's positive 12 over 2, and then you put x in front of them, and those would be your two factors. Don't forget the last step is to put this denominator up, so bottoms up. It becomes 2x minus 3 and then 2x plus 6. And this would be the factored form of 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. So this is the final product. Now if you want to decide or double check if your answer is right, you can always FOIL 2x squared, and then plus 12x, then negative 3x and negative 18. So this is 12x. You're going to get 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. This is what you started with, as you can see. So this is the same as this one. So yes, your answer is right. Remember, if you would like, you can always graph this and graph this to decide if your answer is right. This is another way you can use the calculator to do that. So on y1, you can graph 2x squared plus 9x minus 18. This would be your y1, and on y2, go back and make it bold so it would appear as if they coincide. So they're going to be exactly the same graph. You put parentheses, 2x minus 3, close parentheses, and then x plus 6, close parentheses. So this is what they gave you, and this is the factored form. When you press graph, you're going to see y1, and then on top of it, it should become bold now, and you can see it's the same exact graph, and this means that your work is right. So let's review. If a is 1, you multiply a and c to get a number. So now it's exactly like you used to do before in day 1, 3, 5 factoring day 1. You need to find two numbers when you multiply to get negative 36 this time, because a is different from 1. And to get the middle number, you need to add to get this middle number. So you can use the calculator to figure out those two numbers, or you can think of the factors. Once you figure them out, you write them down, and you divide by what your a is. So divide by 2 in this case. Negative 3 over 2, it cannot be simplified, so you write it down. 12 over 2, it can be simplified to give you plus 6. You put x in front of them, and these will be your two factors. Don't leave a fraction in one of your factors. So bottoms up, the denominator 2 goes up next to the x, so 2x minus 3. And this is how you factor a quadratic equation having an a different than 1. So let's go ahead and do another example. So let's do 3 now. I'm going to be doing number 3. So let's look at number 3. Also, a is different from 1. A is 3. I'm going to give you some time to think of it, so pause the video, do the work on your own, and then play the video again to check your work. So, multiply 3 and negative 20, you get negative 60. So you need to think of two numbers. When you multiply, you would get negative 60, and when you add, you would get this number in the middle, which is 7. So two numbers, when you multiply, you would get negative 60, and whenever you add, you would get 7. So my pre-AP class, so you put negative 60 and think of all the numbers. So for example, negative 2 and 30, negative 5 and 12, maybe 3 and 20. So now negative 2 and 30, it would give you negative 60, but they add up to something different than 7. Negative 5 and 12, if you multiply them, you get negative 60, and when you add them, you do get 7. So this is what you're interested in, negative 5 and 12. Now my academic class, you can use the calculator. So let me clear this, and let's clear this. On y1, what do you put? You put whatever the multiplication of 3 and negative 20 is, so negative 60 divided by x. Then you go to second table. Look, all of those are numbers that multiply to give you negative 60, so you need to see which ones add up to a 7. So negative 3 and 20 is 17, it's not giving you the right answer. Continue. Negative 4 and 15 is 11, you're getting closer. Negative 5 plus 12 is 7, so this is the number that you want. These are the two numbers that you're interested in, so negative 5 and 12. Then what's our next step? You write them down, and you divide by not negative 60, not AC, you multiply by a, the number in front of x squared. So let's multiply by a. Negative 5 over 3, you cannot simplify it, so copy it as it is. 12 divided by 3 is a 4, so it's 4. Always you can do it on the calculator if you need to. 12 divided by 3, so you need to simplify the fraction if you can, is 4. It's plus 4. So what now you do is you put x in front of those two numbers and you close the parentheses. You cannot have a fraction, so bottoms up, it's 3x minus 5 and 2x plus 4. These are your two factors. These are your two factors. Again, you can double check by foiling my pre-AP. My academic class, you can graph this and then graph this, and if they are the same graph, then it is the right answer. So go ahead, guys. Also, I'm going to be doing number 6. I want to remind you though that you should always end up with a number that is positive over here. So every time they give you a negative, first of all, before you do anything, factor the negative out. So put the negative out, open parentheses, and now what you do is you change the sign of each one of those. So negative 6x squared will become 6x squared plus 6x squared, minus x would become plus x, and plus 2 would become minus 2. So remember, number 1, if there's a GCF, factor it out. If there's a negative in front of x squared, also factor it out. So factor the GCF out, factor the negative out. This is step number 1 always. Now, as you can see, there's nothing in common between those two. You cannot really factor anything out other than the negative. So now, think of this. A in this case is 6, B is 1, and C is negative 2. Also, please pause the video, think of this on your own, and then continue. So how do we do this? Think of two numbers. When you multiply, it would give you negative 12, and it would add to give you 1. And the numbers are 4 and negative 3. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and when you add them, you get 1. So write the two numbers down. Then you divide by A. Remember, this does not exist anymore. This is what you need to look at, because you factored the negative out. So this A is 6. So 6, 6. Now 4 over 6 you can divide by 2. You get 2 over 3. And negative 3 over 6 you can divide by 3. So you get 1 over 2, negative half, and 2/3. Now my pre-AP, you cannot use a calculator. By my academic, you can do 4 divided by 6. So this is the number. Press enter, it would give you a decimal. Then remember, you can do math, and then you want it as a fraction. You press enter and enter again. It would give you this in a simplified fraction form. So you start with 4 over 6, you divide it, and then you use math, and then you press number 1 to give you it in simplified version. So let's try this again. 3 divided by 6, enter, it gives you something in decimal. Then if you want it in a fraction, math, and then you press enter for 1 because you want it as a fraction. Press enter again, it gives it to you in a fraction form. So you press x in front of those two. These are your two factors. Then what you do is bottoms up, so 3x and 2x, so 3x plus 2, and then 2x minus 1. Now never forget that whatever you factored out, you have to write it down. So you factored out the negative, so your final answer should have a negative in front of those two factors. Now let's move on to the back page. Now on those guys, you should pay attention that there are common factors. So before you do anything, you have to factor the GCF out. I'm going to help you on 7 and 8 how to factor the GCF out, but you're supposed to do them and come to class prepared on Monday. So finish this worksheet for Monday. So let's look. 9, 30, and 9. What's in common? A 3 is in common. So 9 divided by 3 is a 3x squared. 30 divided by 3 is a 10x. And 9 divided by 3 is a 3. You can always FOIL. 3 times 3 is 9x squared. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 3 is 9. So this is the factored, this is after you take the GCF out. Now you use the big X method for this one. Don't forget to factor out whatever is common here and whatever is common in here. So as you can see here, there's nothing in common, so you can directly do the big X. Now let's move on to number 10. Let's factor out whatever is in common. So 20 and 45, 5 is in common. So you'll end up with 4x squared inside minus 9. Now as you can see, this is not a trinomial, it's a binomial. So what you can do is difference of 2 squared. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 9 is 3. So it's 2x 2x on the other side, 3 over here and 3 over here, but there should be a plus here and a minus over here. This is factoring from day